Think we're camera ready. Hey, what's up guys? It's Sarah Jane. Welcome back to my channel. So, when I filmed my previous video on my 1-year follow-up out of the Army, I kind of talked a little bit about my COVID-19 experience. But I didn't really go into detail about a couple things. In addition to that, I also thought it'd be really interesting to share with the audience the experiences of COVID-19 around the world. Everyone is affected, but some people are affected differently. And so that's what I want to share today on this channel.
We had a very high caseload. Obviously, a couple of regions were hit a lot harder than others.
Mm-hmm.
Northern Italy, where I'm at, specifically more than Southern Italy.
Okay.
So we did have a situation there for a while where the hospitals were kind of overloaded and there was some serious concern. But since then, it's kind of, downgraded. It's actually a lot better now. But the Italian government put a lot of restrictions. Obviously, we weren't allowed to go more than 200 meters from our houses, essential travel only. What's some other, like the grocery stores are only they weren't open on Sundays, but if you're in the grocery store, you have to have like a mask and gloves on. There's only so many people allowed in the grocery store. It's just, lots and lots of restrictions. So it's been interesting as they have ramped up the restrictions on like getting used to what we call the new normal around here.
Mm-hmm.
But it has been a blessing and a curse in a lot of ways. It has been frustrating in the sense we can't travel. We can't really go a whole lot of places. I can only really go to work and come back. Marissa can't really go anywhere with me because we only have one car, and we're not supposed to have two people in the car.
Right. So what are your feelings, just you personally, about the pandemic in general, especially because you're a U.S. citizen and you're not even near the U.S. So how does it feel like hearing about like the stock market, everything?
I am not as concerned. I think once the restrictions starts to lift and everything will go back to normal. I think people will go back to getting their jobs. I think the economy will recover. And I also think from the COVID thing, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's not going away. It's going to become something like the flu that we learn to live with and the hospitals learn to adapt to. So this panic that we have, or the initial panic, because this was something we don't understand, I think is going to eventually become like I said with the flu. We don't really think about the flu killing a lot of people, but that's because we're used to it. The systems are in place to handle it. It's we know exactly how to deal with it. So once we kind of get past the initial shock of everything, I think we'll start getting into a rhythm of how to handle this, and it'll become just something we deal with on a day-to-day.
What does your daily life look like now?
Daily life. So I usually go to work at somewhere around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. We do have a curfew, so technically not supposed to be at work until 5 a.m. Workout, and then go to PT after my workout, and then I work all day, and then I come home, and we have dinner, and maybe watch something on Netflix, and we'll go home. And then on the weekends, generally it's, we sit outside. We've gotten some gardening done. I've actually gotten a lot of things done that I've been meaning to get done, which has been nice. We finally got our garden built in the yard and done some other things like that. So, the day-to-day distractions of wanting to travel and see friends, everything is gone. So now all you can do is really focus on the things that you want to get done.
What aspects are scaring me? I think initially the death toll definitely was like, whoa. And like it's still rising. Like it has affected so many people and caused so many deaths. Thought of getting COVID-19 doesn't really scare me. More so the impact of what it's having to the economy is what gets to me a little bit. Obviously we talked about unemployment in my last video, and like as of today, I think it was 22 million. I'll have to look it back up. It's crazy though. It's literally crazy how many people are unemployed.
Yeah, I did Fulbright for 2 years. So I was on a little island between China and Taiwan.
Okay.
Which was nice. I loved it.
You've been in Taiwan 5 years. What has your experience been dealing with the outbreak of COVID-19? Your personal experience.
So it was taken very seriously from the beginning because of the proximity, because of how close Taiwan was to the outbreak. And there's a lot of traffic between China and Taiwan. So I think it almost felt like overnight. Airports, public places, all started to have infrared cameras, started checking temperatures. And to be honest, I didn't really. We were all on New Year's vacation, which is kind of the one of the bad parts of the outbreak over here in this part of the world was that this is the time everybody's traveling, which is also kind of why there's a lot of why it was taken so seriously. Because it's like if the outbreak happened during Christmas time in the States,
right,
or during Thanksgiving in the States, I think there was a kind of a knee-jerk reaction in Taiwan, and I would say kind of looking at how it's been handled internationally was probably a good thing. I think a lot of people I've talked to back home had very strong feelings about like how dare they not let you go into a grocery store or not go to a hotel if you're over a certain temperature. I thought that it was it's all to keep everyone else safe in a way, and to keep yourself safe as well. They quarantined people as soon as they found out. They've kept a very close watch on their cases here because nothing's really changed that much. One thing that a lot of people are talking about now that masks are becoming more popular in the States with handling the virus is that in Asia it's very common. And it's kind of a polite thing to do if you're not feeling well or if you're around sick people. So having the population wear it wasn't a big change. Temperature checks were a little weird at first, but you get used to them. The worst, at least as far as implementing procedures, the worst of it was in January, February, around Chinese New Year time. So a lot of schools around that time either postponed for 2 weeks or they went online immediately. Just in case families are coming back from places that did have the virus. Once things kind of cooled down by the middle of February, relatively speaking, first, things kind of stabilized. There are kind of, it is, I mean, like most countries, it's still kind of a growing number, but it's more or less curved. There's also, I think one positive thing about living in Taiwan is that there's national health insurance. So access to tests and clinics and doctors is either extremely cheap or just free altogether. So if someone needs to get checked, they can get that done immediately. The last I checked, the border is still closed. So everyone who is already here can stay. There's no issues about that. But it's tricky, especially for teachers, because a lot of foreigners living here are teachers. There's a lot of talk of if they can go home for the summer or if they can get back in.
Right. What does your daily life look like now?
Daily life, I feel bad saying this because it hasn't. Once again, because of the I think the institutions put in place here and the initial move by the communities and by the government to handle it from the beginning, and the constant checking, and kind of the culture around masks and just general virus prevention has made it so that there hasn't been a whole lot of change.
Right.
I do try to social distance and self-isolate as much as I can, but as far as like daily work stuff, it hasn't really changed.
Going back to that really quick, so you're still going to school, right?
Yeah.
And the students are still going to school?
Yes.
Okay, that's so crazy to me. Because I currently live with a teacher, right? And like they're teaching online, and it's just a different ballgame.
It is. I mean, my school did go online for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Once again, towards kind of the beginning reaction to the virus. A lot of the researchers and educators who were kind of in this field of online learning were kind of strangely excited about this because it's one of those things kind of as a teacher, you're constantly trained oh, you need to do more online, you need to incorporate technology.
Yeah.
But no one actually has a plan or
Yeah.
tries to even make a proper game plan.
Right.
So this time it kind of, from their perspective, it forces schools and teachers and educators to actually properly implement these things that we've been talking about for 20 years.
Right. I know people are restless, and I know that this situation is changing every day, and then there's talks about, you know, some businesses reopening, some cities, states slower than others. I think it's so important that during this time we do listen to our governors and follow the rules. You've been in Korea almost a year. What has been your experience dealing with COVID-19 in Korea?
It's been different, especially looking at how it's being dealt with in the States. So obviously living in Daegu was like the epicenter. Mm-hmm. So when I first came here, at about the end of February, society, the economy immediately shut down. I don't think there was even an order given for them to shut down. They just did. So the streets shut down, and then from a military perspective, we started working pretty much around the clock, like, you know, tracking, preventing, supporting the local, like, you know, economy and people, mm-hmm. but also protecting the base and protecting the soldiers and doing all that stuff. So yeah, we were working like a lot more. Basically, you can't eat at a restaurant, you can't, you know, do all that kind of stuff that you wouldn't be able to do in the States. It's been that way now for over 2 months. We've been in this for about we have like a daily cub. I want to say we're at day 80 or something like that. So it's just kind of become like the new normal here. Korea's back to normal. Like, okay. They're out. Like, my Korea friends, like, they hit me up last weekend. They're like, "Where you at?" I was like, "What?" I'm at home. Like, I'm at work or I'm at home just hanging out. Like, they're like, "Oh, like, are you coming out?" I was like, "No." But I think ultimately, like, to be fair, like, I see why they're doing it. It's smart. It is. It's like, basically, there's been no cases every day for a while now, or if there is a case, it's like imported. The economy's starting to stand back up over here, and there's not really any cases anymore. But people are still very careful.
So how do you feel about the pandemic in general? Just you personally.
My feelings towards the pandemic are that they're going to change the way we go about our everyday lives, like, for the rest of our lives, which necessarily isn't a bad thing. Right. They talk about not shaking hands, like, look at Japanese culture, they bow. They don't shake hands over there. Right. You know, what's wrong with doing that? I think there's some things we'll have to look at.
All right, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it today. Let me know in the comments below how you're dealing with quarantine. I do have a day in my life quarantine edition coming up soon. That was requested on my Instagram. Be sure to follow me on all the social media, and I'll talk to you guys in another video. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe. All right, bye.